Emmanuel, God with us. Have you experienced Jesus already tonight? Because he is God with us. He is right here, right now. You know, it's ironic that it is expected around the world that when royalty or well-known political leaders visit a nation, the host nation has everything perfectly prepared for their arrival. Nothing is more true than when someone from Buckingham Palace visits a country. In fact, a few years ago, Queen Elizabeth II visited the United States of America, and the following logistics were part of her arrival. She arrived with 4,000 pounds of luggage. She arrived as part of her luggage with white kid leather toilet seat covers. She came with her own hairdresser and 2 valets and a host of other attendants. A host country would easily spend approximately $20 million to host royalty. Tonight, in meek contrast, God's visit to earth took place in an animal shelter, with no attendants present and nowhere to lay the newborn king but a feed trough. The event that divided history and even our calendars into 2 parts may have been more witnessed by animals than humans. For just an instant, the sky grew luminous with angels, yet who saw such a spectacle? Who was there to witness such a spectacle? Illiterate hirelings who watch the flocks of others, quote unquote, nobodies, who even failed to leave their names. Fittingly, it was they whom God selected to help celebrate the birth of one who would be known as a friend of sinners, the Savior of the earth. John Walvoord speaks of Christmas and the birth of Christ this way. He says, in utter contrast to the dignity of the Son of God and his ultimate glorification as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the birth of Christ was in the rudest of circumstances. You see, some have pictured it as being in one of the outer buildings of the inn used for cattle. Others have favored a cave nearby, also used as a stable. The scriptures indicate that he was laid in a manger, a rude, impoverished crib by the loving hands of Mary herself. I guess it was the first king-sized bed. Max Lucado, a well-known author, explains Christmas and the birth of Christ this way. He says, Christmas is about God coming near. He goes on to say, majesty in the midst of the mundane, holiness in the filth of sheep manure and sweat, divinity entering the world on the floor of a stable, through the womb of a teenager, and in the presence of a simple carpenter. My, what contrast from a visit from royalty. And yet here's the King of Kings being born in some of the rudest conditions on the planet. I don't know about you, but it is around Christmas that we desire everything to just be perfect. Our houses are as clean as they can be. Maybe our table settings are fantastic. They even have little placards with people's names on it, beautiful centerpieces. We just want everything to be perfect. Christmas is the time of year where we spend time with family and friends, and that's important. And I encourage you to ensure that you Make every moment meaningful with your family and friends this Christmas. You see, Christmas is a time when there's joy and warmth in our hearts. Christmas is a time where gifts are given and gifts are opened and the tree is lit up with all the special ornaments hung. Christmas is the time where the dinner table has all its trimmings and everything is perfectly placed. The aroma of the best food can offer the best baking there is. Christmas music in the background, perhaps everyone in their finest. We desire that perfect, domesticated Christmas. Yet, the reality is not so perfect. In fact, many times we find ourselves in life circumstances that are quite actually messy. My hunch is, if we're honest, seasons like Christmas are not always with perfection. Many of us, if we're honest, have relational family dynamics that are a little bit difficult. Many around maybe the family Christmas dinner may have conflicting belief systems and ideologies which, if we're honest, kind of makes for some awkward moments. Sometimes Christmas forces us to reconnect with family and friends who, quite frankly, we're not too fond of. Maybe some of those folks are the ones that have maybe harmed us or hurt us the most in life. For some, Christmas highlights the fact that loneliness has embedded itself in the deep areas of our hearts. Many will go through another Christmas with added hurts and pains. And you might be asking yourself maybe this Christmas, what happened to my life? This is not what I envisioned. A less than perfect family dynamic, a less than perfect interior heart, a little bit messy. But you know, the Christmas story understands the mess of our lives. It truly does. You see, you just look at Jesus' family tree, you see his lineage, and around Jesus' dinner table, you'll find some interesting characters. Oh, you'll find a Moabite lady by the name of Ruth. Well, the Moabites had a terrible reputation. They were known for child sacrifice, and there she is, the Moabite, around the dinner table of Jesus, in the lineage of Jesus. You look a little closer and you'll find a man, his name is David. Sure, he became king, but he was also an adulterer and a murderer. Yet there he is, in Jesus' family tree, sitting around the table. Kind of messy, don't you think? Kind of imperfect. And then, of course, you read the Christmas story and it's less than ideal and less than perfect. It's actually quite messy. I mean, think about it. Mary becoming pregnant without having sexual contact with Joseph, which put doubt in the minds of all sorts of people. Can you imagine the gossip around that one? Less than ideal. Less than perfect. This is the first Christmas. And then, of course, Mary and Joseph having to travel on a donkey for what? A census? The king of the day, I need to know who I reign over. Can you imagine pregnant teenage Mary getting on a donkey and having to travel? Less than ideal. Kind of messy. Lots of imperfections around that. And then they had nowhere to stay. No hotel available. Everybody else had more money than them. And so the innkeeper said, no room for you. Less than perfect, don't you think? A Christmas, nowhere to go, nowhere to give birth. Messy. Whatever happened to their relatives? I mean, this was their hometown, Bethlehem. You would think somebody in their family would open their door for them. Nobody. Nobody. They're left alone in a stable. Born Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us, amongst the stinky stench of animal dung. royalty, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, born amidst the mess. There, we hear the voice of the angel, and maybe you're here tonight and you're kind of thinking about your life and your circumstance and your situation, and you're thinking, boy, there is a lot of messy situations. There's a little bit of imperfection around my life. In fact, there's a lot of it, including mine. And yet we hear the voice of the angel tonight on Christmas Eve, and the angel says, do not be afraid. You see, when life kind of gets messy, we could begin to fear. How's this going to turn out? Is this ever going to change? Is this the story of my life? And the angel speaks to you tonight, do not be afraid. Why? I bring you good news of great joy. Not just a little bit of joy, but great joy that will be for all people. Yes, you heard it. For all people, friend. With Jesus, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic background you are and what you have or what you don't have. Whether you're a new Canadian or whether you're affluent, Jesus has come for you. Whether you're young or older, whether you're highly educated or not, Jesus has come to grant you great joy. He's come for all people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. To you. Not just to a crowd of people, but to you personally. He is the Christ. You see, there they lay. In the stinky barn with animals, a Savior was born. Hope for humanity was born. Peace on earth was born. Joy of the world was born. All happened in a stinky stable, in a situation which really looked kind of bleak and kind of hopeless. Born amidst the mess, we find Emmanuel, God with us. Friend, I don't know all of your stories, but Jesus does. And friend, you have come to the right place, because today Jesus wants to be born in the messiness of our lives so that he can grant you hope, so that he can grant you great joy, so that he can grant you peace, so that he can grant you love. Jesus, God with us. There in your messy circumstance, may the Savior be born. Peace can begin. Hope can take its course. Joy, well, it can fill your heart. Allow the Christ of Christmas to enter your messy, less than perfect life. I conclude with the words of G.K. Chesterton, and he said this: hope means hoping when things are hopeless. Or it is no virtue at all. As long as matters are really hopeful, hope is mere flattery or platitude. It is only when everything is hopeless that hope begins to be a strength. Friends, the Christmas story, though it has been domesticated per se, it's kind of messy. But it was intended to be that way because we all have messy lives, including people like me. But here's the difference tonight. Jesus, the Savior of the world, wants to light up the dark, damp places of our lives. He wants to be your Emmanuel. He wants to be the Emmanuel, God with us, in your home, in your marriage, in your personal life, in your family's life, in those awkward moments around the family table. And so this evening, we're going to sing and conclude with this song. It's entitled, "Oh, Holy Night." This time I want to call our candlelighters to come forward. And this is what we're going to do, friends. We're going to light up our candles. You should have all received one of these on the way in. And this is going to be an illustration of what Jesus can do in your life. He desires this Christmas to enter your messy circumstance and light it up, to grant you hope where there's hopelessness, to grant you peace where there is turmoil, to grant you joy where there's discouragement, to grant you love where there is so much pain.